All right, everyone, welcome back to Tennessee This Week. It is time to hear from our panel of pundits, everyone. And joining us now, we have WATE 6 on Your Side healthcare analyst Craig Griffith, WATE 6 on Your Side political contributor Courtney Piper, and WATE 6 on Your Side political analyst George Corda. Good to see all three of you.
Thank you.
Let's just start with the interview that we just listened to. We're talking about that 9-year-old running for alderman in the town of Farragut. Obviously, I feel like it's nice to see youngsters wanting to get involved in civic life. Courtney, I'm going to start with you. Do you think that's what we're seeing here is a youngster who's excited and ambitious about this? And do you think this is a really good idea to get them engaged this early?
Sure, it is really good and heartening to see someone so young wanting to be so engaged in the political process. I sort of question the approach that the town of Farragut has taken with this, taking it so far. I would think that perhaps after this they might want to add something into their charter that's also mimics state law and says if you're under the age of 18 you can't serve and therefore we won't put you on the ballot and that sort of thing. So there's lots of ways for young people to get involved with politics and involved in government, and it's good to see her, and I hope she finds other ways to stay involved.
And they have a lot of students, older students, who are on different boards and committees throughout the town, and that's a way they can be involved at that stage or a little bit later in life. But do you think, Craig, that maybe the town of Farragut, they did an interview with her this past week and talked to her, and like I said, her name is on the website. I need to stand corrected because I keep saying ballot. There's not really a ballot here, but they're on the website as a candidate for this. So what do you think about all of this? Is this kind of a waste of time and resources?
Well, I think they follow procedure. Because their charter doesn't have an age limit. And they probably, when they did the charter 30 years ago, they weren't envisioning that a 9-year-old would somehow become involved in this. But first of all, I'm for dinosaurs. I think
dinosaurs in the park.
I think that a Jurassic Park would be way cooler than an aquarium. Secondly, I think they've always had a dinosaur on Kingston Pike at the putt-putt.
Yeah.
So it's not all that unusual.
Sir Goonies, I think, has it, as I'm being reminded.
It keeps being stolen by various school groups. And I hope she stays involved.
Yeah.
There's no reason why you shouldn't get involved at this age and go on down the line. And I salute, actually, Farragut for having, students from the high school come and see what it's like in government and public works. And it may turn them all away, but it is a good experience.
Hopefully this will open the door for something in the future. And speaking of the future, George, I want to talk about Farragut's future overall. Do you think the community can stay true to the vision in which it was founded under?
Well, Farragut's always going to be under development pressure, and it's never wanted to be overdeveloped, but it's always been, the property's just is too valuable. There, in West Knoxville, if you've got a backyard that isn't a size plot, somebody's building on it. So that's going to be the challenge in the future, is how they're going to maintain that with the desire of people to live there and the ever-increasing value of the land on which Farragut sits.
The underlying issue with the town of Farragut is that they don't have their own property taxes, so they are solely reliant on sales tax income, and that's where retail comes into play. You heard the new mayor talk a lot about how important retail is. Well, there's a lot of empty storefronts in Farragut, the empty Kroger building. That is their sole source of income in the town of Farragut, and so that's going to be a big issue for him and all the aldermen.
But they designed it that way not to have property taxes. They've survived for what, 20, 30 years now that way. Do you see a reason why, almost 40 years, do you see a reason why they couldn't continue that way?
If they can fill those empty retail spots, if they can actually move forward with that development on Campbell Station Road and Kingston Pike, then yes. If they can maintain whatever level of retail they need to maintain in order to support the people that live there, then yes. But as soon as stores start leaving and development stops, then...
To some degree, it depends on the cost of operating Farragut. I mean, when the federal income tax was enacted, it was 1%. It's not 1% anymore. Government's gotten more expensive. So if government doesn't get significantly more expensive, then there's no real reason to look for additional revenue sources in large new revenue sources.
There's this constant tension between what the residents of Farragut want in terms of services, in terms of parks, in terms of recreation and things like that, and the city's ability to pay. So somebody has to pay for that, and if you don't want to have property taxes, you want to do it all strictly on the sales tax, then that limits what you're going to be able to do for your citizens.
That'll be interesting to see it moving forward. Let's talk about another big story from this past week. Randy Boyd, after an unsuccessful bid for the GOP nomination for governor, could be UT's new interim president. So, Courtney, I'm going to go back to you, UT grad here. Do you think that Boyd is a good pick for this?
Randy Boyd has shown a lot of passion, enthusiasm, and quite frankly a lot of success as it relates to education initiatives. So in that way, I think he's a really great fit. It also might be a benefit to him that he's not an academic. He doesn't have a PhD behind his name, but I also wonder if that's going to increase his frustration as he tries to navigate his way through the UT system. And we'll just have to see. I also think it's an interesting pick because if Bill Lee does become our governor, Randy Boyd is potentially going to have to work with somebody who was a ferocious competitor. And, what is that relationship going to be like? What is that dynamic going to be like? And how is it going to benefit the UT system and the state of Tennessee as a whole? George, you ran into Randy Boyd recently.
Yeah.
Are you surprised at this?
Yeah, I saw him at an airport, and I told him, I really admired the fact that he was willing to run for governor. I didn't know why, but I admired the fact, and we talked for a moment, and then he said, well, I'm looking for another way to serve. Of course, this had to already be percolating in the background. But the thing about Randy Boyd, first of all, he'd be really good. He's one of these guys that when he gets into something, he makes it better because he's just talented that way. But there are three constituency groups over there, three primary ones that he would have to deal with. One is the group that just wants UT to be the best it can be and it's not worried about the politics of things. Another is the liberal establishment within the university who will not want him anywhere near UT. And then the third is the people who aren't political, but they're the entrenched bureaucrats of UT who will resent anybody who isn't from within the system coming in because they would be concerned that could be a threat to them. So out of the three main constituency groups, two of them are potentially adversarial, and I would not be surprised if trustees are already not hearing from some of them.
Craig, what do you think UT's future would look like under Boyd's leadership?
Well, his experience under the Haslam administration of being a higher education advisor, I think, got him into all the nooks and crannies of both the UT system and the state college system. So I think from that point of view, he's already a step ahead. And I think he was hired, the thought probably was to have someone who knows Nashville. I think the university has been a little bit lax in their relationship with the Capitol Hill and with the administration, and I think that he has a better feel for what the state does and what it can do and the role that the legislature should play in that governance. So I think he's a good step here, and they've had a little bit of trouble going outside the system lately to hire leaders. So while he's not from within the UT system, he is a graduate, and he doesn't have.
And he's been a big supporter.
Yeah. He ticks off, as I call it, the Jim McIntyre syndrome. He ain't from around here. He is from around here. So I think that he'll probably do an excellent job in the interim role. It may be difficult without a PhD for him to get the permanent job, and I don't even know if he wants it. So we'll have to move over. I think it's a good choice.
All right. We'll talk more about that, I'm sure, in the future. Still to come, everyone, Brett Kavanaugh's Supreme Court confirmation seemed to be sailing along. Then an incident from his past resurfaced. We're going to talk about the issues all of this is raising. Stay with us. You're watching Tennessee This Week on WATE 6 on your side.